Never a doubt. Never a doubt. Listen, we said last podcast we're buying Jordan Romano stock, and who's to say? Who's to say if he's not back? Who's to say? I'm trying not to be super, super loud. Now, I do have, obviously, my headphones in, so I can't tell. Walks like right below us. But listen, when the Phils come back and they win a game like that in a series they needed, we said last podcast that, you know, it's one of those must win 2 or 3 type of series. Not like we always joke like must win, can't lose, yada, yada, yada. Well, that was one that, I mean, for the way that this team is played, the way that they've lost series to good teams after what just happened in New York, we saw good fight from the Phils. We saw good fight from the Phils. We don't need to talk about Friday. Friday was a disaster. Cares about Friday. Saturday and Sunday, I think we saw the hopefully the real version of the Phillies. So welcome on in. It is the High Hopes podcast. James Seltzer is currently on his third, I believe it's his third delayed flight of the day. So if you know anything about James Seltzer, that's not a good situation for Seltz. That's not a strong suit of his. So can only imagine how much his leg is currently shaking as it's about 10 o'clock at night. And I believe he is flying from Dallas to Louisville and then eventually to Philadelphia. So just thoughts, T's and P's to James Seltzer as he works his way through getting home. So decided to take this one down solo. And had they lost, not sure that would have happened. But the way in which they won this game, a game in which they never win. The Phillies never in my entire existence win that game where they probably shouldn't have won tonight. The Cubs hit some balls hard. We'll say the Castellanos ball off of Presley was disgusting. That ball didn't go out. I thought it was Ibanez all over again, like in Game 5 in 2011. So didn't appreciate the camera angle. Didn't appreciate the wind. Now. All things considered, the wind did definitely help in the 6-run inning on Saturday. But I'm pretty sick and tired of the Wrigley wind, especially in April. Like, I don't think you should be allowed to play Major League Baseball on Wrigley Field in April. It seems like such a ridiculous premise given the given the wind. So what a win, what a comeback, and I think the thing I'm most proud of tonight is as we kind of open here the little AMA version. As get all your questions in. Have any thoughts on the game tonight? We'd love to hear them. I can't take phone calls, which is highly disappointing after a win like that. But Tucker will put up we'll put the best questions up, and we'll kind of go from there. But tonight, I mean, the first thing that we have to talk about is Aaron Nola, who I thought was just downright brilliant. I thought Aaron Nola, that might have been the best version of Nola that we've seen in a couple years. I mean, I think we might have found his plan. Now, I think his plan is a lot easier when he's sitting 93 rather than 90. But even with that, I haven't seen him locate his cutter the way that he located his cutter tonight. And that pitch being somewhat of a weapon to get off of a barrel is just so big for him when he's not an overpowering type arm. He's obviously a more of a finesse type arm. And, just the way that he was able to command the cutter down away to righties and not have them being so accustomed to, if they see fastball out of hand, to just know that ball is going to eventually come back in and right off their barrel. The thing that cutter does is it lets the hitter see fastball out of hand, and they know the spot it's going to end up in, but it goes away from the barrel. And I think that when Nola struggles, he obviously gets into the middle of the barrel and ends up in the middle of the zone. And that's when he's giving up the solo home runs. And when he's getting into those big innings and can't seem to get out of it. So, I just think that plan, completely understand, coupled with 93 makes it that much of a difference. But there's so many instances tonight where he's able to locate that cutter away. They're taking feeble swings at it. Even when they make contact, it's not doing anything. Like, they're not making hard contact. He's keeping the ball down. When he's going up and out of the zone. Instead of being up and just hitting the top portion of the strike zone at 91, he's at least missing out of the zone. He's changing the hitter's eye level, and then he's going either back with the curveball or dotting a fastball slash cutter down and away to a righty. Like what you saw from Aaron Nola tonight was pitching. That was pitching in its purest form. It was beautiful. And I just hope that that is something that he can kind of feel going forward as his plan. Because when Nola really struggles, it's when he starts doing that, like the curveball over and over and over again. And it almost becomes a crutch for him to where people can just sit on it, wait for it to be up a little bit, and bang, yeah. But what happened tonight, again, is that he wasn't overusing it. When he needed to chase a strikeout, he could go curveball. When he wanted to change eye levels, he would go curveball. But what Aaron Nola did tonight was fastballs down and away, cutters down and away, and making the hitters beat him, and they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. So I am I am so, even if they lost tonight, and God forbid had they lost tonight, even if they lost tonight, what you saw from Aaron Nola was a huge step forward. I mean, a huge step forward. And you get him rolling with what Luzardo did on Saturday. I mean, I, Jesus Luzardo, first excited as James and I were, and as excited as the High Hopes community was about Jesus Luzardo, he's even better than I thought. And the way that he is really developing in front of our eyes from a pure pitching standpoint and understanding that early contact is fine. You saw Aaron Nola in the middle of the game tonight. Early contact being fine. Chris Sanchez, what has really helped unlock Chris Sanchez is early contact and being able to get deep into a ball game. I mean, the Phillies, in a way, pitching staff wise, are a bit of a throwback from the standpoint of they want pitchers throwing deep in games. They want early contact. They don't always chase strikeouts. And for the most part, it's led to really good health. I mean, I know that Rangers kind of been battling some things, but for the most part, they're throwing more. Their arms are used to it. They're getting quick outs. They're able to go deeper into ball games. And, that's why starting staff wise, they've been so high up in Major League Baseball last couple of years. So you have what Jesus did, how good Jesus has been. You have Nola having that kind of performance. Chris Sanchez, fine. And Zach Wheeler, obviously, is Zach Wheeler. Like, it's all starting staff wise. If there was a reason why you don't want to give up on the Phils, starting staff is probably the reason why. The starting staff is that good. And man, getting that kind of performance from Nola. Now maybe weather is a little warmer. He felt like he could let it loose a little bit more tonight. But that was, I mean, that was 18 Nola. I mean, that was 18. Big spot in a marquee ballpark. I don't always want to reference the 18 start at Wrigley, but I mean that's what it looked like. That is what it looked like. But man, an exciting night. Bullpen would never start getting too ahead of myself with the Phillies bullpen, but maybe some guys are starting to settling into the season. Alvarado, dominant tonight. A good bounce back performance from Kirkring. Kirkring, I still think, we talked last podcast about how in a great bullpen, he might be the fourth guy, super high end fourth guy, but you don't always trust him. And you don't always trust him in really high leverage spots, but a good piece of a bullpen. Alvarado obviously looks great. Strom, I don't really like yesterday again. I don't it stinks because obviously you want your ace relievers to come in a game that you're dominating and just go out there and do a job. But we've seen this over and over again with these relievers that come into these low leverage situations that are usually high leverage for them, and they just straight up struggle. And it's a bit of an emotional letdown coming into that spot. I believe what happened yesterday. I know that there's people wondering why Strom was in the game. I believe what happened yesterday was that he was hot in the fifth because it was getting tight there. He was hot in the sixth. And instead of just going to someone else, he already has him hot. You might as well put him in the ball game, and you're pretty much burn him anyway with the amount that he warmed up. You might as well see what he has, and it didn't really go well. It didn't go well, but I think if you're worried about Strom, I think you're just kind of wasting breath. Romano looking the way that he did tonight, and he's had even the Mets outing. I didn't think he looked bad. I know that he lost the game. Alonso went out, and that's just a great piece of hitting. Sometimes you got to chalk it up to the hitter. That was a great piece of hitting from Pete Alonso. He went down, flipped a breaking ball into the gap, did a job. Great. Starling Marte got jammed, sawed him off, and it just happened to fall right over Bryson Stott's glove. Starling Marte kills the Phillies. He was always going to get hit at that spot. I don't know what people were expecting. If you're expecting to get an out there, simply not possible against Starling Marte. But Romano, even in the outing that he was, we love to do the explanation versus excuses thing. The tipping pitches thing makes so much more sense when you see what has happened the last two outings, and you see the uptick and stuff versus what happened against the Marlins, where again, high leverage reliever for the majority of his career is coming into a low leverage spot and doesn't have his A game. But again, I think he was tipping pitches. I think they've worked on him tipping pitches. And I think going forward, you're going to see a better version of Jordan Romano than we've seen at the beginning of the season. The fact that his stuff is back up to 97, 98, the fact that, that slider he threw to Michael Busch, it looked like it disappeared from my screen. It looked like it completely disappeared from my screen to where I just didn't see it. So I know he's a two-pitch guy. I get it. But when it's right and it's up in the zone and he allows it to get the rise underneath of it, it's a hard four-seam fastball to consistently square up. So overall, obviously the offense continues to be the main bugaboo for this team. And even tonight, Jameson Taillon was good, to a certain extent. But, I think they sometimes bailed him out by swinging early in counts when they didn't have to. Bomer, I know he had the big RBI late, which is good. But I thought he bailed him out. I don't know what he planned on doing, an 0-0 cutter on the outside portion of the plate. And then late in the game, he swung at a 3-1 slider in the dirt, and thankfully held off on the pitch from Mayweather in extras. Now, it didn't end up meaning much, or he, wasn't on base paths, but still, the offense is going to be the offense. I think they're going to be super inconsistent. They're going to be really frustrating, and you just kind of have to hope that they can go on a bit of a stretch and they look fine. I think you like the rate in which they're walking. Stott at the top of the lineup does the top of the lineup is doing his thing. Obviously, the triple tonight was really good. We love the amount of pitches he sees per plate appearance. Trey, couple hits tonight. Shout out to Brujan for not charging the baseball with arguably the one of the five fastest players at the plate. Pretty bold decision. One thing I noticed from Trey tonight, and I hadn't noticed it, I don't think, the last couple of games, is maybe a little bit of a two-strike approach. I know it's Sunday night at about 10:18. It might be high hopes after dark, but a two-strike approach from Trey where he's not super lifting the leg and getting the leg down late and being late on pitches. We like to see it. But he did a little bit of a toe tap. Honestly, I would take two-strike approach Trey for an entire at bat. I just want to see what it would look like. That was a thing a couple years ago where, to get Stott where they wanted Stott to get to back in 2023 is they just said, hey, have a two-strike approach the entire time. And he did, and it helped Stott kind of take off. It makes it harder for him to strike out, which we like to see from Trey. And puts the bat on the baseball. We're monitoring the two-strike approach from Trey. Bryce, it, just like it looks like there's a lack of like it doesn't look as quick. I don't know how to explain it, but the hacks swinging and missing and just not seeing the off speed pitches very well. And then he's getting breaking ball to death. And then when he does get a fastball, it feels like he's so late on it. So maybe just in between swings right now. And as the season rolls along, he'll get it going. But it's kind of jarring seeing him hitting 232 right now, I believe. And some of the at bats are just so like not Bryce types, where he's still walking a ton, still has an elite eye, but the amount of swing and miss and not even being close on some sliders. I Obviously we're not pressing the panic button. He's going to be I'd be surprised if he didn't heat up here and go on a stretch, but it kind of looks like he's holding back a little bit on when to kind of launch. So obviously not a great night from Bryce tonight, and then had the big double yesterday. But still, you're kind of waiting for him to go on about a 2 week tear. We thought he was breaking out after the 10-day thing. That he's talking about with Kevin Long, but Kyle Schwarber extended the on base streak tonight. We love to see that. We're coming for Ted Williams' record. So had the walk, still has not produced. I think the way that they want. I think the at bats overall have been fine, and he's just missed a couple pitches. But you haven't seen him obviously power wise in the cleanup spot. Protecting Bryce hasn't totally been there. So maybe as it gets more comfortable, he starts to heat back up. I think Schwarber traditionally is obviously going to be hot and cold, hot and cold. And he's been more consistent, 100% the last year and a half. But I think when he heats up, it's going to make things a lot easier. And again, like some of the things that you want to see, which is a lot of walks. Hopefully, the amount of base runs they're getting eventually it leads to better numbers with runners in scoring position. But really, those two in the middle getting going would obviously help carry this lineup a lot, because I think you kind of know what you're getting from Stott at this point, which is he's going to work a good plate appearance. He'll mix in a triple every once in a while, but like he's more of a singles hitter at this point. Hopefully, can steal a bag. Trey, I think it's now 50. I think he has one extra base hit in his last 55 plate appearances or 54 plate appearances. So he's more of a singles hitter. It's those two. Castellanos, I mean, he's been really good. That home, it jumped off the couch. Was ready to was ready to go run down the streets of Westchester with the Castellanos ball tonight. But like it's hard to get too high, hard to get too low with Castellanos. I think we just settle into he's going to have some incredibly frustrating chases, but he's going to be more good than he's not going to be good. JT, we might be playing out the string with JT. Max Kepler, to his credit, I think heading into the night is batting 361 in his last 12 games. Did work that big walk in extra innings, which was good to see. I was a little nervous. It was not a hot night for Kepler. And then Bohm, we know what Bohm is. I mean, he's starting to heat back up a little bit. So he's starting to heat back up a little bit. Now it's never going to be. I mean, he still has. I think he has. I mean, he has obviously no home runs. He has 2 walks now, so that's huge. That was a big development. I was trying to calculate how many extra base hits that Boehmer's up to now, but at least he's not wasting everyone's time up there. And then Rojas, I mean, get a bunt down. And then when you do get a bunt down, not right at the first, no, don't hit a line drive to the first baseman in that situation. But and also the ball earlier probably should have got to it. I think at a .010 expected batting average, so should probably make that catch. But the wind was really howling, so whatever. It is what it is. Rojas does usually get to the ball when it's out there, but just some unbelievably frustrating bunts tonight as a word. Again, he needs to be able to get bunts down. He's super fast. That's winning baseball. And the Phillies struggle again from the winning baseball aspect at some points, but not tonight. The Phils are winners in what was a really important win. I mean, a really important win. They've played really well against the Dodgers, played really well against the Cubs. Met series was infuriating, and the Cardinal series, yeah. But that Cubs team has played damn good baseball at home. And tonight to hold them to 1 run, what they did yesterday pitching wise, that's big stuff. That is big, big stuff from this Phillies team. And maybe starting to see some real fortitude from them. Real fortitude, because they need it. And it's the only thing that's going to pull them out of this, out of whatever funk they're in, is themselves. And I think tonight was just a really big step forward, a little bit of a momentum swing heading into the off day tomorrow. Nationals coming to town. Nats are frisky. I mean, the Nats are playing decent baseball right now. Like, they're not the pushover Nats that they've been the last couple of years. Mets have they came back from, I think, 7-1 against the Mets today. And man, but still, you're at home, Nationals in town. Let's go do a job. I just think that they lose that game tonight, they're getting on the plane home like, is it not our year? And I know that it's April 27th, but sometimes you got to have a feel. And sometimes you'll have to pull yourselves out of it, and they had plenty of times to pull themselves out of it. It just might take a little bit longer. But I think that win, like they got tonight, and getting on that plane, feeling good about themselves, saying, "Hey, we know what happened in New York. We know that hey, the Mets are playing good baseball right now." But being able to get that win in that stadium on Sunday Night Baseball, a game where it didn't look like he was trending your way, a game in which Knowles came out and completely shoved, the game where your offense didn't totally have it. And being able to sneak out of there with a win, maybe just get some wind at their sails as they get home for a homestand off of what should be a pretty good stretch here of not tough opponents. All right, Tucker, let's throw some questions up here before we get out of here on this Sunday night. All right, from Alicia, the team seemed to take good at bats late in the game. How do we translate that to having patience in early stages of the game and wait for the right pitch to hit? Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing you can think about with the Phillies offensively right now is they have a super high walk rate, which is great as long as they're able to bring them home. And by the way, real quick, so they go Nationals and then Diamondbacks, which will obviously be tough, and then it goes at the Rays, at Guardians versus Cardinals. So again, it's not it's not exactly the easiest, but towards the end of May, Pirates at Rockies at A's. So if there's a place for your offense to heat up, certainly at Rockies and at A's is not a bad place. So back to the question, I think that if you're looking for a glass half full with the Phillies offense, even though they can be maddening, and you're starting to see some more chase from players that have done a good job early in the season, and oh man, but we sure like to see some more slug for a team that is quote unquote built to slug. You hope that the amount of base runners they're getting, that water eventually finds its level, and these guys are professional hitters. And my hope with Saturday was, they had a lot of opportunities. They had some balls just fall in that they hadn't exactly gotten those breaks the last couple of weeks. They had some of those fall in, and then you hope that carries over and they start to get some confidence, because I think hitting with runners in scoring position and with 2 outs is really confidence based. I mean, you look at the Mets, right? And the Mets, they seem like they just know with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position, they're going to get them home. So, I think that a lot of it is confidence, and once you get rolling a little bit, then I think everyone starts feeling the same way. But I think for the most part, the at bat quality has been better. It's really just about getting Harper going, getting Schwarber going. I think you have a pretty good sense of what you're getting from Stott and Turner at the top, and then Can one of those guys at the bottom of the lineup get a big hit and kind of help you out? But I think from the standpoint of working quality at bat, Stott obviously, Harper obviously, Schwarber obviously. I think Kepler does, and then you really need the wild cards: Trey, Castellanos, JT, and Bohm to just not have those unproductive first pitch swinging, just nothing at bats. I mean, it was the fifth inning tonight. It was a 5 pitch inning. What are we doing? What are we doing? All right, what's next? Uh, from my guy Mickey Durkin. Honest take, Cubs fans have to be top 5 fan bases in baseball. True or false, Fritz? So I am so jealous of of the Cubs like fan base culture, and I know it's based out of a lovable losing, but again, we could have had that here. I think having a stadium in town really helps from that. I mean, Wrigleyville's amazing, and I went there for my my bachelor party back in 2018. Who could forget? Dylan Cousins' big game tying home run in like the eighth of that game, and then Jason Hayward turned around a fastball from Adam Morgan to have them lose. First fastball Jason Hayward had turned around on since his opening day home run in his first ever game in the big leagues. So it's just like baseball is life in there. And obviously, you know me, Seltzer, if you listen to this podcast, baseball is our lives. And yeah, I mean, having Wrigleyville, having people basically just live right by the ballpark and and those Cubs teams, like "Go Cubs Go," an unbelievable song when those teams were in the playoffs. So yeah, the Cubs are pretty awesome, and I hope that as the Phillies continue to play good baseball, hopefully for a good stretch here, maybe we start developing some fun traditions of our own. But yeah, I'm pretty jealous of the Cubs culture. What's next? From Daniel Mormack, 2 questions. What are your best tips for throwing a baseball? And then what AAA arm would you call for a pen replacement? So I think the pen replacement, unfortunately, Max Lazar got hit around a little bit yesterday. So I'll take Joel Kuhnel. I believe that they have to create a 40-man roster spot for. Best tips for throwing a baseball. Well, if you want to throw deeper into a game, long toss. And then like a lot of it starts with your legs. I mean, you're supposed to. Now, when I was growing up, it was always like poles and run long distance to build up leg strength. And then as I got into college and later in high school, it was a lot more sprint based stuff because pitching is a sprint. The physical act of pitching is a sprint, but I always liked. I mean, I didn't at the time like poles, but I mean, it was always build up the leg strength, and then it was also long tossing. Also, again, I can't tell if the stuff that I talk about now is super outdated with all the like cameras and and just how advanced pitching stuff has gotten. So again, this could be 2000s baseball knowledge, but something that really helped me for whatever career I had was the towel drill, where you just take a towel, you put it in between your fingers, and then you simulate your motion, and it really helps you focus on finishing. Now it does create like it's dry runs, which is everyone wants you to do dry runs, but it is something that helps you finish through, and ultimately that's what you want because again, you don't want to throw to the catcher, you want to throw through the catcher, and I think the towel drill is great at that. So I think long tossing is really important. They say if you can throw like 100 yards on a football field, that means you can throw 90 miles an hour on a mound. I never got there, but I was damn close, and that was a big day for me back in high school. All right, what's next? Evan Gothy, what do you think the plan will look like for Marsh when he presumably comes back? I think it's going to be what it is. I think he's going to be in center field sometimes, and Rojas will be out there. It's not like Rojas has had some moments, but I don't know if they're like, well, there he is. Here's Johan Rojas. I think they want to see what Marsh has, and I think the reality is that Marsh has to prove himself, or maybe they dangle him as trade bait in a package for a reliever. Again, he would not be the headliner of a package, but someone who can play the outfield that has a pretty good prospect pedigree. And I just maybe he's a part of a trade package and they just go with a Rojas and you know, maybe a Crawford. I have no idea. But I think they're going to at least give him some runway here and let him come back. Now he did get hurt again today, so maybe it just could be a season from hell from Marsh, which would stink. But I kind of floated the idea maybe 2 podcasts ago of the Rojas and Crawford platoon in center field. Now, obviously, Crawford has to continue to do it AAA. I think he's back over 300, but whatever. So, and then a Kepler, who again starting to hit much better, but Kepler and Kemp in left field. Come on, man, Otto Kemp. I think he made his second career start out in left field the other night, and I don't know, man. He's raking up at AAA. So I'm trying not to get ahead of myself with Otto Kemp, but he keeps hitting well, and they keep moving him all over the field, whether it's left field, whether it's third base, whether it's second base, whether it's first base. So they're clearly trying to find some kind of positional versatility for Otto Kemp because the bat might just play. It might just play. Now he's a little on the shorter side, so maybe the power potential isn't there. And again, I'm not trying to hype him up like he is a future star, but just be a competent big league hitter. I think that could be Otto Kemp. I mean, almost like an old school Cardinals type player. Now, unfortunately, the Cardinals only develop those kind of players, and that's why they're not very good anymore. But like Otto Kemp, hopefully can just be a winning baseball player. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that when Marsh is healthy, he'll come back up. He'll play center field. He'll play left field, and they'll give him some runway and see if they got to make a decision, around the trade deadline of what direction they want to go in. All right, what's next? All right, Joshua Durazio. Wonder if there's any relation to our good friend Justin Durazio. Is it realistic to think that Crawford, Miller, Kemp, and Racones all get opportunities at the big league level this year? If so, how do the pieces fit? So I think it's going to take an injury. I mean, I do. Definitely for Aiden. Aiden, I think, is going to be he's not going to make the big league roster this year unless, again, he gets stupid hot and they have an injury. But by the way, I believe that we're about to make our announcement on a trip up to Reading to go see Aiden and the Fighting Phil. So looking forward to that. So stay tuned for an announcement on us going up to Reading for a little High Hopes night like we did in Wilmington last year. But yeah, so I think that Aiden, no chance. Kemp, definitely a chance. Crawford, a chance. And then Rincones, I would love to see him, but again, he's a corner guy. Unless Kepler gets hurt, unless Castellanos somehow gets hurt, Nicky Ripken there in right field. It's not happening. I don't think. Again, power's really interesting, but I think it's going to take an injury for a lot of those guys to eventually get up there. So, and even I mean, Kemp might even take because I think that they want to give Weston Wilson the chance to be the right-handed bench bat, but maybe it forces their hand. He's certainly doing a great job of it. I believe his OPS is still over 1,000 down in AAA. So yeah, but I obviously can't wait to see them get up here. Hopefully they can get up here, but at the same time, if they get up here, that might not mean that things are going very well. So I would like things to go well with the guys that are here, and then we can figure it out from there. All right, what's next? Ethan Madnick. Do you agree if this bullpen really wants to be great, they need Romano and Kirkland to be the 5-6? Do you mean 5-6 from the standpoint of like the fifth or sixth guys in the bullpen, or the fifth or sixth inning? I guess you mean, I guess you would mean, the fifth or sixth guy in the bullpen. Sure, but it's not really a reality at this point. I mean, if they could find one guy to push down them in the bullpen, that'd be great. But again, I think I, I'll continue to buy Jordan Romano stock. I think that tonight you saw what a lot of people saw when he was a Blue Jay for that time period, which is a power fastball and then a slider off of that. So yeah, I think he has the ability, obviously, to pitch in the latter portions of the game. And Kirkering, he might still be developing from the standpoint of being a late inning reliever type, but I still believe if he's a fourth guy in the bullpen, I think he'd feel great as long as the three other guys are really solid. Um, but maybe he just might not be one of the super high leverage guys. Now, maybe that's an overreaction to some bad outings, and he can go on a run here, and he certainly has done that. But we've also seen him in some big moments not exactly live up to it. So, but yeah, I think Romano, that outing tonight, your big hope is that that's a bit of a springboard into seeing more of the Jordan Romano that you'd seen in 2000 or in 21 to 23. So again, the fact that his fastball is up the way that it was, you saw some real bite to the slider. It wasn't just all this kind of loopy slider types. That pitch to Michael Bush really disappeared. So currently buying some Jordan Romano stock. All right, let's do like two more. From Josh, will the Phils go back to Schwarber, the leadoff spot, or Stott, our guy? Well, yeah, I think they're gonna ride with Stott here. I think it has to do with Schwarber protecting Bryce. Now, it's not exactly going great right now from that standpoint, but at the same time, you don't want to overreact to two guys that have really long track records this early in a season. So, or for a questionable 2 week stretch. So, I think that this is probably their best chance to win this year. My my pushback to Stott in the leadoff spot, which has been pretty well documented, is it's not about the first inning. If it was only one inning, I love the idea of Stott in the leadoff spot because the amount of pitches he sees per plate appearance is phenomenal. And working a pitcher matters, and getting to two strikes and fouling off a ton of pitches. Absolutely love it. Just comes down to later in the game, would like a more like I see like Tatis leading off, and I see Otani leading off, and I see like these great offenses with like a super impact batting first. And my old school self says I love it. New school self is a little bit like would like an impact bat there. Now at the same time, they don't really have that guy right now. It's not like Trey's taking it and run with it. Again, hits tonight were great. A lot of singles. I think it's 1 for 50. I think it's one extra base hit in his last 55 plate appearances. So the average is creeping up, but it's not super impactful. And again, I want Schwarber protecting Bryce. So fine with it. Hopefully, I mean, Stott's been great, and it's good to see them getting the 23 version of Stott because they need that guy, and that's a super valuable player. Um, that's been my only pushback for the time being. 100%, it has to be Stott batting leadoff. All right, last one. Adam Detweiler, what did the Phils do moving forward? Max Kepler / left field. Kepler's been playing pretty well. I mean, he I believe his last 12 games heading into tonight, he's batting like 361. Now that was aided by yesterday for sure. So I think that the way that they made a swing adjustment with him before the first game in New York, I remember Stalker talking about this on the broadcast. They got him closer to the plate, have him standing up a little bit taller, and maybe that kind of gets him to unlock a little bit. You saw the home run yesterday, which is really good to see. I think he works a pretty quality at bats sometimes. I feel like he really struggles against splitters and changeups. So maybe there's a bit of a book out there on him. And but I think overall they're gonna give Kepler a little bit of runway here. Maybe Kemp. I don't think they would call Rincones to play with him, obviously. It's another lefty type. They've been playing Mercado some left field, but I don't think he made to make a move there. I just see what Kepler gives you. Maybe you work a Sosa in there every once in a while and kind of see how it goes. But again, I think he's kind of evening out a little bit. You're seeing a bit of a step forward from Max Kepler. And then last one here from Andrew Freilinger talking about Seth Johnson in the bullpen. We're seeing Seth Johnson move to the bullpen. Very, very exciting. It's quick work by Tucker. I appreciated that. Because last week, obviously, or last pod, we went on the rant about why are they not converting these starters to relievers? A little surprised they did with Seth Johnson because he doesn't have now again, he doesn't have the greatest command, so you might as well see what he can do out of the bullpen. But he's up to 98. They changed, I believe they changed some of the his slider last year was like a cement mixer. I think they changed some of the maybe the grip on it. I have no idea, but he's getting more break on it. So, it's taking a step forward to where it's not a waste of time pitch. So I think they worked with him from that standpoint. So maybe Seth Johnson could be someone that could help out this bullpen. But bullpen might be kind of rounding into form. I thought Joe Ross threw well yesterday. That's more of what I would like to see from Joe Ross. Couple of innings. He's back up to 94, 95. So, he's another one of those guys kind of like Nola where he can spot that cutter away and then two-seamer in. Tunneling wise, it's not the easiest thing to pick up, but Joe Ross, Jose Ruiz had some good moments yesterday. Cesar Hernandez or Carlos Hernandez probably not. So maybe Seth Johnson could take his spot. I don't know, but could be Joe Kunal. Again, he's been pitching really well up at Lehigh Valley. So again, they don't have the best bullpen in AAA, but I think they have like 6 guys who didn't really allow much in April. So certainly they heated up from that standpoint. Well, let me see if I had anything else I wanted to talk about here on the pod. No, that was pretty much it. So we went 42 minutes. That's pretty ridiculous. So it was an exciting win, big win. Off day tomorrow. Nationals in town. Hopefully that's a springboard into this team really settling into the year and realizing the potential they do have. So thanks to everyone who hung out. Seltzer, we'll see if he ever lands, or lands back in Philly. But either way, big win tonight. Celebratory mood here on a Solo High Hopes podcast. Thanks for hanging out.